Hey, this is Christian, and today I have a special guest here on the channel. It's Beth, one of my students, and we've been working together for maybe 8, 9 months, something like that. And she finally landed a job last week, so she just finished her first week. And I want to basically share with you her experience going through the program, how it was before she joined, and kind of what she's looking up to for the future, I guess. So I'm gonna give the floor to Beth. Hey Beth, how you doing? Congrats.
Thank you.
Do you wanna give like a brief intro to kind of what your job is right now? What are you doing?
Sure.
Like title.
Yeah. So my official title is an Umbraco front-end developer.
Hmm.
So I'll primarily be working with the Umbraco CMS,
Hmm.
and it's just kind of like a WordPress software kind
Hmm.
of deal. Um, but it uses a lot of C Sharp, JavaScript, and they use Bootstrap a lot for custom CSS.
Hmm.
But that's basically the space that I'll be working in for the most part.
Sure, awesome.
Yeah.
Let's start with the beginning, right? You are a self-taught developer, and I know you've been coding by yourself for some time. So, what were you doing before you joined in January, I think, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So before that, I was working as a systems analyst, just working on computers. And the place that I was working before I switched jobs, they only required that for a partial amount of the time. The rest of the time, the majority of my time was actually spent doing like paperwork and stuff. So I wasn't even working in computers as much as I wanted to be.
Mhm.
So about now it's been about 2 years, but before I joined the program, it had been about a year and a half that I had been teaching myself how to code. And I started out with stuff like Free Code Camp and some other tutorials on like YouTube. And then I got a subscription to Skillshare and looked at some tutorials on there. But then I kind of got stuck in tutorial hell where it was just like I was following these things, but I wasn't really building my skill set or even like building projects on my own. It was just kind of copying what everybody else was doing and
Mhm.
not really thinking for myself how to do stuff.
Sure. Let me ask you this. If you would have to do this, knowing what we've done through the program, right? If you'd be by yourself, how long do you think it would have taken you to get to this point where people would hire you if you do it by yourself?
Oh, I don't even know. It would have taken a lot longer because, like, the fact that you actually lay out a path and are like, okay, these are the projects you need to do. There's, this, and this. And then you give that critique while we're going through the projects. Like, I didn't have that structure. So I didn't have a direction. I didn't know where I was going next. I was just kind of fumbling around. Like, I didn't even have a goal of when I should be looking for a job.
Hmm.
So it it could have taken me another year. It could have taken me another 2 years. I'm not even when I started in January, I didn't even know for sure when to even start looking for a job. I was so clueless.
Hmm. Yeah, I remember. And I remember when I approached you, you were like, you weren't really trusting me because I've told you you're gonna do this. It took some convincing from my side to get you on board.
Yeah, I remember almost backing out, and then you were like, wait, let me call you. You called me on Facebook, and we're like, okay, what are your concerns? Like, what's tripping you out about it? So you kind of talked me into it, and we're like, no, just stick with me for a little bit and see how it goes. And I am so glad you talked me into it because I wouldn't be where I am now. Like, it's definitely worth it. Like, I'm every time I think about it, I'm like, man, I'm so glad he convinced me to stick with it because, yeah, if it wouldn't have been for that call when you called me and convinced me to like just stick it out for a little bit and see how it goes, like
Yeah.
yeah, I don't even know where I would be right now. Like I'd probably still be just following tutorials and like trying to fumble my way through it.
I know everyone that jumps on a call with me, they are all like, I'm not really sure, because whenever I say how things are going to look like, they think that it's too good to be true. But then once they bite the bullet and decide to join after 2 weeks, they see, oh, okay, that makes sense. Because it's not,
Yeah.
I don't think I ever said like this is going to be like a magic bullet or it's going to be easy in any way, shape, or form. And actually, probably you noticed that as time went on, I've made it more and more and more difficult, so I can make sure that you actually learn the skill set as much as you can, because we are in a controlled environment where there is no stress, no pressure, kind of, right? And it's not real world, but it's as close as possible to the real world. What was one of the things that kind of stuck with you during the program? What made you, I don't know, have the most epiphanies, or what do you think is like the most valuable thing in the program besides the roadmap? Because I guess everyone can get a roadmap off of the internet, right? You can get the free code camp one, the Odin project. There are so many roadmaps on the internet, right? So that shouldn't be a problem. But what do you think was the most valuable thing in the program for you?
Part of it was definitely the feedback, because even going through tutorials and stuff, like everybody kind of has their own style, and it's hard to depict from that what the standards are.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting your straightforward, honest feedback was really helpful, because even though some of the practices I already had in place were standard, I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't 100% sure that they were standard. And then there were other things that I was like kind of questioning, and you were able to tell me, yes, they're good, or no, don't do this. And then even if I was doing something right, you were able to show me, well, okay, this is all right. You can do it like this, but here's a better way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of invaluable when you're learning how to program. So the personalized feedback for each project was extremely helpful along the way as well.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I should share the project. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But you know what's one thing that I've noticed, that everyone that, because people need to understand that I am not showing you how I build any of the projects. Like
Right.
there is no following along. There are a few videos where I explain some concepts, but there is no hand holding per se. Everything is like, you have to do it.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe just 10% of your project is kind of made by me as we are going through stuff in the calls, but the rest is literally just you. And everyone has their own style, but at some point they kind of make the same thing, which is pretty interesting to see now after months of seeing people going through this roadmap. What were you looking for when you joined the program? What were your goals? Because learning to code, yeah, it's nice, but if you don't have like a purpose for why you want to learn it, then it's kind of meaningless, because it's just a vehicle that takes us from point A to point B. What was point B for you, and did you get to that point B that you were wishing for?
Yeah. So I remember one of the first things that we had to do was create our why.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going through that, and initially it's like, okay, well, I want to get a job coding, but part of the reason I want to get a job coding is so that I can have a job at home working remote.
Mm-hmm.
And then that will give me more free time, because I was driving 50 minutes to work one way
Mm-hmm.
to drive, and that just is like crazy now.
Yeah.
So,
Welcome to my life.
right. So I'll have more time to do the things that I love to do.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but I'll be making more. So I will have more comfort to, travel and do the things that I want to do. And not only that, but if I'm working from home, then I can work while I travel and
Mhm.
things like that.
Mhm.
And so that being said, I did get a job working from home, and it is making substantially more than I was making. And I'm not driving like I was driving. I'm pretty much almost eliminating one vehicle. If I lived downtown somewhere, I would actually be able to eliminate a car, but I don't quite live close enough to
Mhm.
downtown to do that. But um, yeah, like I've reached pretty much all of my goals. I've still got a little bit to go
Which
to
one?
really, um, I want to be a full-time writer at some point,
Mhm. Mhm.
but that's going to be like years and years down the road, you know.
Yeah.
But my official goal for this program was to get a job in development,
Mhm.
and that happened. And it's gotten me to the point where I can actually feel comfortable coding
Mhm.
as a full-time job.
Mhm. I think one thing that I have to mention, which is pretty important and pretty sick actually, is that in the beginning we had that Code 75 challenge,
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
were the only one. So Code 75 means you have to code every day for 75 days, otherwise you get kicked out for a week from the program, and you have to brief us with what you did that day, if I remember correctly.
yeah.
I don't remember because you were the only one who did it, so I gave up on it after that. I said, okay, uh, we should have like a special prize for that, the Bet award, you know. But you know, that showed that um, learning this skill is pretty much like a ladder, right? You have to have the roadmap and you have to have the mindset, which you had both of them. But what's important is to have the steps to connect those two legs together so you can actually climb it and get over the fence. And I believe that if you apply the Code 75 idea framework to your writing goals, I'm sure that you can achieve that as well, uh, without a doubt, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
Um, what would you say to someone that's on the fence, that's watching all these YouTube videos all the time, and they are still thinking about getting in and actually doing something about this and stop wasting their time and actually, you know, going for it? What would you say to someone that's still thinking about it?
Well, if they're serious about coding, then just jump in and do it because it's worth the time. Like, it's challenging, yes, but it's definitely worth it. Like the satisfaction you get from creating something and from seeing it on your screen and knowing like I did this, and even just reading your code and going, wow, like I actually did all this work. Like there's so much satisfaction in that. And like the program is definitely worth it to be able to come out on the other side and be like, it, took me this amount of time, and everybody's different. So, you've got different students who have taken a different amount of time to get where they're at,
Mhm.
but it's definitely worth the time and you put into it. And it does depend on the effort you put in, how long it's going to take you and everything.
Mhm.
Um, but I feel like it's 100% worth it to just dive in and do it for
Awesome.
sure.
Awesome. Yeah, it's definitely one of the things that I've noticed, and I think one of the most important parts of the way I do things is that the program is pretty much unlimited until you get a job, and then after you get a job, you can stay in. There's like I want to build like a community in there. Uh, but yeah, that's important what you said, because you took 8 months, someone else might take 6 months, someone else might take 1 year. You know, I don't find the difference per se. People want to hear that, oh, in 3 months you can get there and you'll be paid $100,000 and Google is going to hire you. I don't think that's realistic. It can happen in 3 months, it can happen in 2 months, like with Jason, but more realistic is 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. That's kind of what you're looking at to actually know the skill and not just have surface level knowledge, you know, because that's not really gonna benefit you in the long term. I guess that's it. Do you have anything else to share over here?
I don't think so, except for maybe like if you join, be prepared for like straightforward, honest feedback. Because that was actually one of the selling points for me was
Hmm.
like that you don't there's no BS.
Yeah.
Like you're just straightforward to the point, and you're not gonna hold any bars back. You're just gonna like tell it how it is, which is really good because then you know whether or not your code is right, and you know whether or not you're doing what you should be doing.
Hmm.
So, and like when you give advice about what you think each person should be doing for that week, like at least you know the feedback you're getting and the advice that you're getting is what you really should be doing. Like the fact that there is no BS, there's no filter. Like
Yeah,
that's,
there's
I
literally
think,
no filter.
right. I think that's really good to have in a mentor because if the mentor is too worried about your feelings, you're not going to go anywhere. So
Yeah.
you kind of need someone who's just going to like push you to do your best, but because you're not mean about it. You're
Hmm.
just like, this is how it is. If you want to do better, this is what you need to do.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. I'm just thinking like I'm nice to everyone and I'm trying to inspire everyone and I'm trying to be positive all the time as much as I can, I think.
oh yeah,
Yeah, so I'm
for
trying,
sure.
yeah, but like if this is crap, and you have to beat me please after, if this is crap, I'm gonna tell you how it is because I don't want this to affect you in 6 months from now. I don't want to see that. I can I prefer to hear this feedback for myself when I do something because I know it's gonna benefit me. And right now I have a person in my life that's telling me to swear less, and she's telling me to replace one word with unicorn. So I'm working on that.
Okay. There you
And
go.
and I didn't realize how often I say it, but she's always telling me, "Hey, unicorn, unicorn, unicorn." Anyways, I'm working on that. I'm getting my
Yeah.
feedback. Um, and by the way, okay, one more thing, because I'm always talking about this, and I always bring up this thing, code reviews.
Yeah.
What do you think about code reviews?
Um, I think that they're an excellent tool and they definitely should come along with any type of program you're going to be in. You should definitely have code reviews
Hmm.
because if like when I was doing the tutorials by myself, it every time I tried to do something kind of on my own, I would have it set up how I thought it should be, but I was never 100% sure.
Hmm.
And then I would like end up having some sort of block of code that didn't work right. And then I would go on like Stack Overflow or something. And yeah, you'd get answers from that, but it's not like very specific and you kind of have to try and decipher it. So the code reviews that we had were really good for a couple of reasons. Like, number one, they're personalized. And number two, we were also reviewing other students' code. So you're getting that opportunity to read other people's code, which is really important once you get into the real world because you're going to be looking at other people's code and have to decipher their code. And you're getting that feedback, really quickly. Like you're very good about getting back to people very quickly. So you're not waiting like several days to get feedback on it either.
Hmm.
So the code reviews are really good.
Hmm. And what's funny is that by the end of it, when you finish the app, there were less and less comments. The further you were getting into the project, the less and less you needed my feedback. You just needed my approval so you can merge your PR and stuff like that.
Yeah,
What about the job interview process? How was that?
that
Because
was a little bit,
this is important, right? And
yeah,
there was a lot of there were a lot of things to figure out in there. It wasn't the easiest thing. So
yeah.
how was that?
I'm actually glad you brought it up because that is one thing that I've had a couple of people message me and ask me how the program's been and stuff. And that's one thing I've constantly mentioned is like you were relentless when it came to making sure that our strategy was always the best. And it was a little bit stressful getting all those rejections and stuff, and then getting interviews and it going nowhere. But then you were always like, okay, well, let's re-strategize and figure out, okay, why isn't it going anywhere when you do get interviews? Or maybe we can look at your resume and see what's going on with your resume. Maybe there's keywords we're missing or something. And that, I think that was really important, making sure that the resume was right. And you had a lot of really good verbiage to use and make sure that, we had some keywords in the resume. And then, like when things were kind of going stagnant and I wasn't making any progress, you had me take that 2-week break to just focus on interview questions and studying for the interview itself, which I think was also really important, because when I came back from that 2-week break, I felt a lot more confident when I went into the interviews, because I had studied so hard and then developed all of that knowledge about those questions that, like, you kind of know the concepts and everything because you're doing it, but you don't know the technical way to explain it.
You don't have the labels. And
right.
Yeah.
So like taking that time to really study and learn the terms and all of that was really helpful. So that was something else that came out of this program that was kind of invaluable to me, was just the amount of determination you as my mentor had in making sure that our method of finding me a job was working. And you didn't just like, here, go find a job and kind of throw me to the wind. You were very involved in that process as well.
Yeah.
And so it took, about 3 months and somewhere around 280 applications or something like that, which some of them I knew I wasn't qualified for and I would probably get rejected, but it was just the process of doing it and trying to get things going and stuff. So, it was overall, I think every single rejection was a good experience and every single interview was a good experience. So, it worked out good.
It was definitely from my side, a learning process, because I'm always, every city, every single person, every single age has like different challenges. I would like to say that someone that's 18 is going to have a time as difficult as someone that's 35. It's the reality of life. It works out different. There are more limiting beliefs as you're getting older, or maybe in your city there's a different interviewing process. So there is always something to learn from myself that I can implement for others. And I don't know everything, but I'm striving to learn as much as I can, so I can basically help as much as possible. I don't have the answers to everything, not yet, but I'm gonna try my best to figure out what I can, as time goes on.
Yeah.
Cool. I guess that's it. I know I've said many times that this is gonna be the last question, but then something comes in.
Yeah.
Cool. That's it. I guess that was it. That's the interview with Beth. I'm super happy that I helped her. I'm a bit sad in a way that you are leaving, but I guess that's how things work, It's bittersweet. We've discussed about this before. So yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna put my tears away. And if you want similar results as Beth, there is a link in the description. You can apply for a free consultation call either with me or someone from my team, and we'll have a conversation with you, and we will see if you are the right fit to work with us, and maybe you'll become our next success story. Until next time, Christian.